For those who harvest acai berries in northern Brazil, this is black gold. The fruit, considered a superfood, is extraordinarily popular in the South American country. It's been growing in popularity worldwide, finding a place in both cuisine and cosmetics. And in a small community of the Brazilian Amazon, acai accounts for more than 85% of its income, according to local officials. A 60-year-old woman known by the name of Bezina followed her father into the practice. She still scales trees, barefoot and without advanced climbing equipment to retrieve the berries. But Bezina took things a step beyond harvesting. She was the first woman in her community to participate in funding meetings. She recruited a group of other women to reorganize acai production and fundraising for it. And a local agronomist says that production grew by more than 50% as a result. Bezina says the quality of life has improved for the women involved, but that there's still room for growth in their work harvesting acai. Paging Dr. Friday, we have a suspected case of awesome. Welcome to the world from A to Z with Carl Azuz. I'm Carl Azuz, and I'm happy to be spending part of my day with you. Next story is about a government in transition. By the time we see you again next Tuesday, the United States will have a new president. Donald Trump will have begun his second term in office, having served before between 2017 and 2021. Joe Biden will have wrapped up his first term in office, but we should say presidential office, because Mr. Biden previously served as vice president during the Obama administration, and he held the title of U.S. Senator from Delaware before that, having entered that role back in 1973. So President Biden is wrapping up a political career that spanned over half a century.
America can be defined by one word: possibilities.
President Joe Biden gave his farewell address after more than 50 years in federal politics. He spoke from the Oval Office with the First Lady, Vice President, and Second Gentleman in the room. In the face of low approval ratings, Biden touted his record as president.
It will take time to feel the full impact of all we've done together. But the seeds are planted, and they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come.
President Biden closed his speech by expressing love for the country.
May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith. I love America. You love it too.
Is it constitutional? The word cabinet, in relation to the federal government's executive leaders, only appears once in the Constitution. True or false? Answer here is false. Though the Constitution empowers a president to appoint officers with the advice and consent of the Senate, it never mentions the word cabinet. But President-elect Trump has nominated numerous officers to fill his cabinet. Even though his next term doesn't begin until he's sworn in Monday, the Congress he'll be working with, the 119th Congress, began its new session on January 3rd. So the Senate's been fulfilling its role of giving advice and consent by holding hearings on Mr. Trump's nominees. Those confirmed to roles like Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, Attorney General, Director of National Intelligence. They'll all work with the incoming president to help carry out his priorities in the U.S. and abroad.
In Amsterdam, art technicians are slowly and painstakingly working to restore Rembrandt's famous 1642 masterwork, The Night's Watch, and all in front of a captive audience. The intricate work is taking place behind glass at the Rijksmuseum as the restorers delicately remove old varnish from the massive 12 by 14 foot painting before carefully re-preserving it with new varnish. It's a project years in the making. It's now unfolding in real time.
Word of knowledge. Before they became a U.S. territory, what were the U.S. Virgin Islands known as? Danish West Indies, British Antilles, Canary Islands, Spanish Virgin Islands. Located about 70 miles southeast of Puerto Rico, these islands were previously part of Denmark and named the Danish West Indies. On
this date in world history, January 17, 1946 was when the United Nations Security Council held its first meeting. This is the most powerful part of the UN. It's responsible for maintaining international peace and security, and when the 15 members of the Security Council make a decision, all 193 members of the UN are required to go along with it. On this date in 1917, a deal was ratified concerning the Danish West Indies. The United States had purchased these islands from Denmark for the price of $25 million. Their name was changed to the U.S. Virgin Islands, and their residents became U.S. citizens on January 17, 1917. And it was on this same date in 1912 that a British explorer named Captain Robert Falcon Scott reached the South Pole. But it was a disappointing event. He found that Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen had beaten Scott to the location by about a month, and Scott's team didn't survive the journey back. Starting in the Cornhusker State and working our way east this Friday, we've got Mr. Hicks's class. SCO Middle School is in Lincoln, Nebraska, where the Skyhawks are taking flight. How about the Middies? At Highview 6th Grade Center, longtime viewer Miss Bailey and her students are in the city of Middletown in the Buckeye State of Ohio. We're making a stop in Enola, Pennsylvania, where the students and teachers of East Pennsboro Area High School are watching. The Panthers are in the Keystone State. And we're running with the Greyhounds of Northern Burlington Middle School. Mr. Faust's class is in Columbus in the Garden State of New Jersey.
This grin says it all. Barbara Humbert loves to run. She turned 85 and is definitely not your typical great-grandmother. She runs an average of more than 30 miles each week.
I think it's a feeling of freedom, of well-being, of joy, of communicating with nature, the forest to the fields.
And those feelings have resulted in many accomplishments. A wall filled with medals from marathons, a shelf lined with dozens of trophies. And in 2022, she beat a world record for her age group, 78 miles in 24 hours. Definitely a can't stop, won't stop kind of lady. Humbert was born in 1939 in a small German town near the French border and remembers the Allied forces bombings during World War II. She later met a young French soldier, Jacques Humbert, who is now her husband of 60-plus years. Humbert didn't start running until the age of 43, and she hasn't stopped since. In 2023, she calculated that, at that time, she had run some 4,971 miles, just in official races. She's done a couple marathons since then, but
You have to accept to slow down. I have to rest a little more. I'm very careful with training, with my food, much more than before, because I'm aware of my age, and of course I have to respect the restrictions that age imposes on me to do feats, to do long-distance races. So I'm very careful.
Barbara Humbert's will to run is a good reminder. It's never too late to start, and we're capable of doing hard things no matter our age.
More questions than answers are likely to come up when you first feast your eyes on this. It's part of a series of art installations on display now in Macau, a special administrative region of China. A lobster in a submarine, a lobster dressed as a chicken, a lobster sitting on what appears to be a tube of paint. They're the work of a British pop artist who says the energy between the human and the lobster inspired in him a feeling of surrealism. Locals reacted with adjectives like cute, different, and interesting. Maybe the artist was crayfishing for compliments, and while some could criticize his creations as spineless bottom feeders, others may say they rock and wouldn't invertebrate him for taking crust action that leads to inflated debate and may help people see food differently. I mean, after all, if tourists crawl out to see them, they're for a good cause, y'all. I'm Carl Azuz for The World from A to Z. We will be off the air Monday for the Martin Luther King holiday, so please join us again next Tuesday. You are the best part of what we do, and you mean the world to me.